Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakthroughs with Bree. On this podcast, we are discussing all of the topics that help us have breakthroughs on our personal and spiritual development journeys. My name is Bree, otherwise known as Healing with Bree, and I'm a channeler, energy healer, tarot reader, astrologer, and soul alignment coach. My mission in my work and in this podcast is to help teach people how to shift their consciousness, how to heal, and how to release beliefs and patterns and fears of their ego mind so that they can step into alignment with their soul to live lives of abundance, purpose, and bliss. In these episodes, I will be sharing either through my own lens and my own channel or through the experiences of my guest, wisdom and expertise about healing, spirituality, psychology, personal growth, holistic wellness, mysticism, consciousness, and so much more. My hope is that these conversations help you feel seen and provide support and inspiration for you with your own personal breakthroughs. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Breakthroughs with Bree. On this week's episode, talking about one of my favorite topics, which is fear. And it was so funny, a little behind the scenes. I wasn't sure what I was going to podcast about today. Some days I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get on and start talking about this. It feels like it's like bubbling up underneath my skin and just waiting to come out, right? And then there's other times like today where I know I want to record and I am feeling like it's aligned to record, but like my energy feels a little bit different. It is a little overcast here today, and that I always feel very in touch with kind of like the weather, like very sensitive to that. So I'm kind of in a little bit different of an energy, but I'm still feeling like I should record. And I'm like, okay, what's the vibe guides? What are we talking about? And so I went through my like list of ideas that I have. And this one talking about fear felt like it was the right thing. And then I started to record and I was like, gosh, I don't really know if I'm feeling it. Like, guides, is this really the vibes? And I pulled some cards and the cards were very obvious. Like, yes, like this is a good time to record. Like maybe this is the best energy for me to be in talking about fear. I should just go with it. Whatever. And when I was pulling cards, okay, like what are the topic? I was getting like the Devil card. I was getting the Seven of Cups. I was getting the reverse King of Cups. I was getting the Mood. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're for sure talking about fear today. We for sure are. This is like, again, this is one of my favorite topics because I feel like fear is so misunderstood and its purpose that it has for our life and for our experiences. We think of fear, and I say we, just kind of assuming for the collective based on what I've seen and heard and also what I've experienced myself, is that like we think fear means that there's some sort of threat or danger to us, and it like sends us into that survival, freaked out, stressed out energy. And so like I feel like we just like associated that whole realm, the whole sensation of fear with those things, and it becomes something that we avoid. It becomes something that we are scared in itself of, like we're scared when fear comes up, right? We're scared of fear itself, which is kind of ironic. And I just think it's something that's really misunderstood. The feeling, the purpose of it, especially if we're trying to live more conscious lives, which to me is that when we're trying to live in awareness and an embodiment of what we truly are, which is source, which is spirit, right? Like we're source in a human body. And if we're trying to have that kind of experience, which also means we're trying to live a life of abundance and bliss and peace and all of the things that come with and are natural to the nature of source, right? Like we also have to learn how to approach some of these very human and inevitable kinds of experiences like fear and pain and all that kind of stuff. Like we have to learn how to move through those things from the perspective of our spirit and our source, which is really what I love teaching people how to do, especially in my coaching work. My one-on-one coaching program is now open. I have 4 spots for people who want to do one-on-one really intensive work with me and greatly accelerate their own experience in this kind of healing journey and jump in timelines and really changing the trajectory of their life with the kind of work that we would be doing in that container. But I'll tell you more about that later. But that is on my website now and it's active if you have not seen. But yeah, so we're trying to live lives from this place of spirit, which in itself is joy. Again, it's peace, it's love, it's all these like feel good feelings. And I feel like fear just gets really misrepresented in the role that it plays trying to help us, the things that it offers and helping us align back into our nature as spirit and source. I've been reading a lot of like really cool manifestation books, really cool manifestation One of them is A Happy Pocket Full of Money, which is the book that I'm doing my summer book club on. If you didn't get the chance to sign up for the summer book club, do not fear. I'm going to be doing more book clubs. I think the opportunity to create like small communities with people and build relationships with other people who are on your vibe and trying to do spiritual and personal development is so important. So if you just weren't vibing with the Happy Pocket Full of Money book, or it just wasn't the right time, but you really would like to get access to these sensational people, this sensational experience, all of this relationship building, but just with another book topic, it is all good. There's going to be more coming. But anyway, Happy Pocket Full of Money, talking about manifestation. And one of the reasons why I'm really talking a lot more about manifestation and reading about it is this is so well encompassed by a quote that I read in here, is that manifestation is not trying to get a certain outcome. It's about embodying and exercising your divine nature as source. Well, I'm going to say that again. Manifestation is not about affecting a certain outcome. It is about exercising and embodying your nature as source and as divine. Crazy, right? This is what I've taken that to mean, is that, again, we are source in a human body. We're not just like a human that has the ability to connect to source. No, like we are source, okay? And part of that is that we literally can create our reality. Like we have all of the tools to be able to like create limitless things, like quite literally limitless things, of possibilities of outcomes, whatever we want. Okay. And one of the things that this book's talked about is that the purpose of this human experience is being able to know and understand our divine nature. Like we came down incarnated into a human body for the opportunity to understand our own nature as source. Because it couldn't like understand itself. It's just in the ocean of source, right? Coming down and embodying as a human means that we have polarity, we have contrast. And it's in contrast that we can really understand something. And it's through the contrast of all of these different kinds of experiences we can have as humans, including things like suffering or pain or loss, that we can truly appreciate and then understand the joy, the peace, the love, the abundance, right? Like we can understand those things in the experience of the contrast, and we can just get to know them more fully. We can get to know them through our sensory experience, through our five senses, but we also are multidimensional, so we can start to really understand what those are even in higher dimensional things. And that's like the purpose of us being here, is like to get to know ourselves as source more deeply, and basically become even more and more empowered in our identity as spirit as we go on living our lives, if that's what we choose. If not, we stay in the illusion of the 3D world, which we're still creating, but it's simply being created from like subconscious conditioning that we didn't consciously choose, right? So we end up kind of getting into the sort of like the collective zeitgeist of conditioning and beliefs or whatever. And like, that's what we're projecting out because we haven't chosen what we're creating for ourselves. But you're still creating your reality. You're still source, right? But you haven't yet chosen that journey of like one step at a time. Like, what does that even really mean that I'm source? Like, what does that really mean that I can create any experience that I want? Like, what does it mean that I am every single thing that I could want? I'm love, I'm peace, I'm health, I'm wealth, I'm prosperity, I'm like all of it. Like, what does that mean? How can I get to know that in myself better? How can I get to know that feeling, that vibration more? And how can I generate that in my external world so I can understand it on a whole nother level by experiencing it externally through my five senses too? Like, it's just the most magical thing. And it's been really fun to read more about all of that, especially on like a sort of like, there's an element of like quantum physics in this book that's not too overwhelming if you're planning on reading it, but it does take a minute to digest. At least it did for me, as it moves through and like explains other things. And it just makes perfect sense to me. Makes perfect sense. And again, for me, I run things past my own gut about, does that resonate? Does that feel true for me? And it's been really fun. I'm learning more about just, again, our nature as source and like the purpose of being human, and learning more about manifesting, which again is not so much about creating an outcome as it is, what does it mean to live from my own divine nature? Like, what does it mean to live as source through this human experience? Like, what does that really mean? Because when I'm living from that place, not only am I tapping into the power of source energy, which again in itself is limitless, but I'm also experiencing all of the things that are innate and aligned to source, which is all those feel good things that we're dreaming about wanting to experience anyway. Now I've gone on that little rant. I want to talk about fear because fear, I think, is one of the greatest helpers and teachers that we have in that process of understanding our limitless nature, because fear shows us where we are not yet free. And fear shows us where we do not yet believe in our limitless and capable nature as source. And if we want to live lives where we feel super magical and super embodied and super joyful, like we have to learn where we're not there yet. Like we have to see it in order to even be able to connect with it. And we can't change something until we've connected with it, right? So if we kind of follow the dominoes down the line, I need awareness for it first, like what's really going on. I think that with awareness, there's also an element of seeing the truth and finding the truth, within myself, connecting with that energy. And once you've connected, you have the opportunity to kind of massage it and change it. And what I mean by all of that is let's just say somebody could flip a switch and you would be totally aware of your divinity and of your source energy and feel it, feel how true it is in your body and also be able to act from that place. One of the things that would be true is that you would know that you do not lack anything, that there's nothing that could harm you. There's nothing that could affect you and threaten you in any way, because source energy cannot be destroyed in any way. It can't be harmed, and it's also not lacking anything. So if it can't be harmed and you're not lacking anything, there's nothing to be afraid of. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if we flip the switch, you were in your total embodiment of your source energy, you would not be afraid of anything, literally of anything. Okay. So when things like fear come up, not only does it show us where we are not yet free, but it shows us where we believe something that is not in alignment or in congruence with our source nature, which means that we're believing something that's true, which is really important to understand, because again, in the nature of us being source and being able to literally manifest and create any single thing that we could want, which is so crazy to learn and think about. Again, highly recommend those kinds of books. Our beliefs, our mind and body has to be in congruence with that energy and that feeling in order for it to manifest. So the only reason why things that you would want to create into your experience are not is because there is some form of resistance. And I find that resistance usually lives in our mental fields with our beliefs. And it gets anchored in by feelings that still live in the body, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these thoughts, again, these beliefs stay anchored in our fields and literally close the door on things that another part of us wants, our soul or spirit wants. But again, if our mind and our body is not in alignment, it's not in congruence, it's not letting it come and flow into our lives, then we're not going to be experiencing it, right? So if we want to feel the ways we want to feel good, we want to feel abundant, we want to feel love, we want to feel joy, whatever that is, which every single one of us wants to feel that way. We have to be able to process and move through our fears. We have to. It's literally the only option. Another thing that this book said, it had so many good one-liners. One of them is that fear is false evidence appearing real. Look for the false evidence because you will always find it. It's false evidence appearing real. I really had to sit on that one. And this is what I took from that, is when we're afraid of something, we have all these justifications of why it is, again, justified, why it's reasonable, why we should be afraid, right? And then for us to be afraid, we also have to believe that it's possible for us to be harmed or to be lacking in some way. We have to believe that all of those conditions are true in order for fear to exist in any situation. And none of those things could be true if we are source, aka making it false evidence. It's false, literally false. Now, on a 3D level, on a human level, all of that feels really real. And it's not even to say that those experiences that we're imagining can't happen. Of course they can happen. Experiences are also super subjective, but we're creating our reality. If you're envisioning something bad's going to happen and all of your energy is spent thinking about it, visualizing it, preparing for the worst, you're literally bringing that reality into your life through the power of your mind and your feelings, because that's the space that you're living in those energies, right? So of course it's very possible that those things can happen. But as you want to move into a more fearless energy in your life, as you want to move towards a more empowered and blissful and joyful energy in your life, you have to start learning how to identify with your source energy more than you identify with your human energy. More than you identify with your ego self, more than you identify with your human self. You have to, in the priority, in the hierarchy of what you think that you are, you knowing that you are source energy has to be at the top of the list if you really want to live that sort of, again, fearless, abundant, powerful, limitless kind of life. Another thing that they talked about in these books is that like this whole human experience is an illusion, which again is a super trippy thing to think about. Apparently I'm in a very like cerebral kind of mood today. I'm in like a super inner thoughts and thinking deep and, a very thought-provoking mood, which, I mean, I guess when am I ever not, but especially today. We're talking about illusions, Seven of Cups I'm looking down at. Um, that really all of this is an illusion. It's not real. The realest part of us is our divine nature, is our source energy. Because even if you think about like our human body can die, which is really just taking another form, but like our soul energy cannot die. It literally cannot. It's not, that's like the realest thing that we have. Okay. And yes, our body and our like human life is the densest, so we can touch it, we can smell it, we can see it through our senses, but that does not make it the most real part about us. Crazy to think about. I know. And the other thing again that this book and others that I've been reading and learning about is that we are generating our external reality from our thoughts, from our beliefs, from our state of being. And for us to look at what's around us and think that that tells us something about what's possible for us is like actual insanity. It's like crazy. Like I am the cause, the external world is the effect. So why would the external world tell me something about my own nature? I'm the one that created it. Like that's just silly, And this is something I've really had to remind myself, especially when it comes to money. I'm in like a big season right now about money and abundance, and I'm really grateful for it. I think that there's purpose in the fact that I feel drawn towards that sort of topic. And I think probably a big thing is that there'll be an element of like me teaching it to other people, which I think is just like a part of my soul plan and soul purpose. But all of that to say, I'm in a big season about that. And so for me to look at like whatever my circumstances are with financial stuff, like it would be crazy for me to think that current circumstances like tell me what is possible for me. Like that would be crazy. Like, no, this does not represent my capability or like my limit, my potential in any way. I'm the one that has generated it. Like, why would I let that tell me? Like, no, like that's crazy, right? Like I have to keep like anchoring back into, again, my soul perspective, as opposed to the fear, which might say like, oh, like this is the best it's ever going to be. It's always going to be inconsistent. It's never going to be enough. Like it's going to keep dwindling. You're going to get in a really terrible place and you're going to go into debt and lose your house and like all of the like the fears that come up with, what could happen. And all of that is sparked from if I believe in the illusion a little too much and a little bit more than I believe in my own nature as source, right? Again, being careful of the illusion. So let's come back to the fears. My belief about fears is that they are pointing us to a place where we feel like we might not be safe. I'll say that again. I believe that our fears point us back to a place where we feel like we might not be safe. And that might be in our current circumstances, or that might be something that we're anticipating in like the immediate future or something in a situation that we might not be safe. Now, again, remember the ego mind's primary job is our safety. It's keeping us alive. Okay. Whereas the role of our spirit is to evolve and to grow. It's abundant. It's always expanding, right? And it's to express and be itself. The role of our ego is literally to keep us safe, to keep us alive. And I think fear is kind of like the bumpers on either side of like a bowling lane, trying to keep us in the lane and keep us in the game. So when fear comes up, again, it's a signal that something about our survivability is being threatened, or at least that's how the ego mind is perceiving the situation, right? So when I feel a lot of fear come up, my approach is to get really curious, like, oh, like what's going on? Like, what am I afraid of? Because when we are in a physiological state of being afraid for our safety, it makes it so much harder for us to actually be plugged in and to be feeling and moving from our soul state. Right? Our ability to like be in fourth or fifth dimensional consciousness, or other ways you could say it is like to be in our like love energy instead of our fear energy. Like I don't want to say can't access it because I don't really like using absolutes, but it's very hard to be embodied in our like soul level authenticity when our body and our mind thinks that it's fighting for its life. It literally shuts off the other places in our physiology that help us access that. Cognitively, again, physiologically, down in some of our other organs and systems, when it feels like our life is threatened. Enter understanding of nervous system, vagal theory, nervous system regulation, et cetera, et cetera. So when I feel fear, it is a signal that my body is like blocking off any of this other like spiritual fun woo woo shit because like we got something that's gonna make us unalive. It's gonna make us not survive. It's gonna mean that some of our core needs that have to do with our safety and that are tied to our survivability are about to not be met. Danger, danger. I think that this is kind of a surprising way to look at it for a lot of people, that it's not just about logically or objectively, am I about to be unalived or something? But no, the subconscious mind, the brain believes that one of its needs that are so important to get met is about to not be met. And therefore, survivability is threatened. Okay. This can be more than just our physiological needs. If you look at like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I don't think is like the most comprehensive, but just a really good way to illustrate it. It's not just the bottom of the triangle with like physiological, food, shelter, water. Okay. This is our needs, and what feels like will help us survive and thrive have to do with so much more than our physiology. It has to do with our relationships and our ability to be connected, our ability to express ourselves, our ability to be respected, our ability to be considered, to be loved, to be appreciated, right? To do things that feel important to us. Like all of these things are tied to what feels like our ability to be totally safe and do things that are important to us. And as soon as one of those things are threatened, again, our ego mind, our body comes online to try and protect us. But when it's in that protective mode, that's actually when we are the least open, we're the least flexible, and we're the least receptive to what it is we actually want. So it becomes a block in itself, because it's not meant to be something that's not meant to be a state that we're supposed to stay in for prolonged periods of time. It's really just designed if like all of a sudden there's a bear chasing me or a tiger chasing me or something, like it comes online to do that. And that's pretty much it. But we find ourselves activating subconsciously, of course, this state in our body most of the time. So when fears come up, what I recommend to people, and this is a whole big part of my trigger alchemy process, is investigating and doing a lot of self-inquiry. Like, what is it that I am most afraid of? And I got to ask this question many different times, and I've recommended this on multiple occasions, but I like to personify my fears. I think it does a really good job of allowing multiple things to be true at once. So there might be one part of me who's afraid of something and another part of me that's like, I'm not afraid of that at all. Like, I don't feel that way. Like, it allows there to be conflicting parts without invalidating any of the parts, right? So like, I personify this one fear self, and I'm asking the questions like, what are you most afraid of? Like, what are you feeling right now? They say that they're afraid of that thing. Okay, what bad thing happens if that first level fear that you've given me happens? Oh, well, this and this happens. Okay, well, what's so bad about that? Like, why are you so afraid of that? And sometimes it's like asking many questions to get to the layer of the onion, which again is my fear alchemy process that I teach in all my group coaching programs. This is like the first part of it. And then you get to the core where one of your intrinsic needs feels like it's about to not be met in some way. I feel like I'm going to get rejected. I feel like I'm going to be abandoned. I feel like I'm going to lose my ability to like provide for myself or like provide for my family. I'm going to lose important relationships. Like again, some of these like core intrinsic needs, when we go in deep, all of the layers of the onion, we see that that is what the situation is touching. And it's when we see what our ultimate and intrinsic need in the situation is that we can address it, and we can figure out why the situation at hand has made us believe that that need is in danger of not being met. Okay. Because again, if we come back to like our identity as source, like it's not lacking ever. It's not lacking anything ever. It is literally abundant in nature, right? And nothing can actually threaten its own nature. So again, it's like asking ourselves, like, what do I believe about the situation that's telling me that my need is not already met, that it can't be met, or et cetera, et cetera. And it's so funny. I think it's so interesting to do fear work and to do trigger work, because we kind of see how we have distorted a lot of things, how there's like a lot of stories that intertwine that just are not true and are like twisting us up and making us like a pretzel out here. Really, we just like want to be like chilled and open. For example, a lot of people have a fear of conflict. And if we like really investigate that, we come down to that. Okay, like what are we afraid of? I'm afraid of them getting mad at me, right? Like I'm afraid of them misunderstanding me. I'm afraid of maybe it's some people, I'm afraid of their like being yelling or screaming, or whatever the things are that you're afraid of. And then you ask the next level questions. Okay, why is that something that feels scary? Like, what bad thing happens if that unideal situation happens? And a lot of people, on the next layer of that is like, I'm afraid of being rejected, or I'm afraid of being abandoned. And that can be something that is so scary, especially if we had times when we were kids that we did feel abandoned or rejected in some way, which basically just means like we didn't have our like safe adults to help co-regulate with us. Like we were not equipped physically, cognitively, emotionally to ride an experience in a way like when we felt like we were alone, like we literally didn't have the tools for that. So it felt so overwhelming. Like we didn't know how to move through it. We just didn't have the capability. And what we needed was another, again, safe adult, safe caregiver to help support us and co-regulate us through that experience. And we didn't have that. That imprint of being rejected or abandoned, it is so alive in the body. It is so scary, right? So anyway, like that ends up being like a core need to be connected that we fear will not get met. And we have this whole story that we can't get connection. We can't get support if, we bring up tough conversations or if we advocate for ourselves. And it creates this whole pattern. It creates this whole block to us having situations where we actually can get reliably and safely connected with people. And we can do so, again, in an authentic way, because if you're avoiding conflict, you're not having authentic relationships. You're not being your authentic self. You're not. It's like a straitjacket keeping you small, keeping you censored. And it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But anyway, just an example that's telling us where there's a core need that's not being met, and also where there's a core wound that needs some healing. There's a lot of work that can be done, maybe identifying origin stories or origin experiences, or helping mature and teach and evolve an inner child who is super afraid of being left alone or abandoned, and how to sort of like bring them up to speed on what is true now, is that we're an adult that does have the ability to regulate ourselves and does have the ability to feel safe and does know how to seek out and elicit healthy and safe connection when we need it, right? But we would never have even realized that that's what it was really about if we did not have the fear to signal to us that something in our subconscious mind had it a little twisted. And the reason we knew it had it a little twisted is because we were feeling fear. Our actual nature source is fearless. It's not lacking anything. It can't be threatened by anything. So if we're feeling fear, then that's a signal. And again, this is just like a natural part of human nature. Of course, we're going to feel fears. That's literally part of the experience, right? Is learning our own nature. And part of us learning our own nature is by first starting or experiencing things that we are not, the contrast, in order to figure out what we are. So this is not something to shame us in any way. But if we want to experience coming into the light, as they say, right? And if you want to experience all those good feelings that your soul is giving you those dreams about, that you want to move towards, like, you kind of have to fact check your own beliefs. You have to fact check your own subconscious mind. And the way that we can do that is with our fears. Our fears show us where we are not yet free. Fear is a misguided form of love. That fear about conflict is really a part in your mind that is trying to keep you connected with other people. Desperately. It is desperately trying to protect you from that experience that felt so overwhelming and so scary when you were isolated, when you were disconnected, when what you needed to be safe was actually connection. It is desperately trying to help you avoid that experience because it thinks that experience is a threat to your survivability and your safety. What a wonderful helper you have in that fear. And even in that pattern to a certain extent, right? It's not the end of the world. It's not a bad thing. But again, I find that it becomes something that is really negative and really bad for us when we don't know how to process our fears like that, when we don't know how to understand what they're really about and address what the core issue is, address and meet the core need, and also process, heal whatever origin story created the belief in the first place, and replace that with truths that align with our nature, soul, align with things that actually feel more true to us. Like if we don't know how to do that, then of course we avoid our fears because it's a very hard sensation to tolerate in the body. It makes our subconscious mind and therefore our body and nervous system flare up, thinking that again, our survivability is threatened, imminent danger. You know what I mean? Like, of course that would be something that we struggle with when we don't have those tools. All of that to say, I firmly and passionately believe that one of the most important things that you can do for yourself is learn how to address, learn how to process, how to face your fears. and how to actually heal the root under those fears so that you don't have to keep experiencing it over and over again, because that is very possible. I've seen it over and over again in myself, and I've seen it over and over again with other people, especially the people that I do my trigger alchemy and spiritual mindset coaching with. And this is the reason why I think that it is so important. Those things that you want, again, the relationships that are super aligned and healthy, the career opportunities, the certain quality of life things that you want, the dream health, like actual experience in your own body, those things are a manifestation of your truest nature as source. Okay? You are already it. You already have all of the things that you need to experience it. Like you already have it. You already have the capability of it. It's just a matter of experiencing it, because having the capability and actually experiencing it are different. Another thing that this book, Happy Pocket Full of Money, talks about, it's like you technically have the capability to do something like, I don't know, like surf. Even if you've not yet experienced it, like you have the capability to do it, right? Like it's just a matter of like, are you going to take action to experience it? And this is true with all of your dreams. All of your dreams. You would not have the dream if you were not capable of it. If you did not inherently have the capability, and if it was not something that was aligned to your soul path and your soul purpose. Okay? You will not be able to experience the things that you want, that you're seeing in your mind's eye, if you do not know how to remove the resistance in your own brain to having those experiences, aka if you do not know how to move through your fears and your triggers. Those are what are creating resistance. Those are what are creating blocks, because you're believing that something isn't possible, or that you're in lack, or that you don't have the capability to do something, or that it's possible for something to be threatened, right? Like your understanding of your own identity is a little faulty, and this is not your fault. It's not something to be ashamed of, but when you don't believe those things about yourself, you don't let it come into your reality. So I just passionately believe we all need a process to be able to move through our fears and move through our triggers, so that we come out on the other end understanding ourselves and our nature source more deeply. That is the gift that those opportunities offer us. They offer us the actual opportunity to access to the point of resistance in our own psyche, so that we can see it, we can connect with it, and we can shift it if we want to, so that you come out on the other side feeling more free, feeling more peace, feeling more awareness, understanding of your own nature, and therefore being able to experience resistance moved, boom, you can experience it. Boom, it's manifested. Like that is how important doing fear and trigger work is. Everybody's got to be able to do it 100%. Otherwise, again, your fears, your past traumas, they will literally drive your whole life. They will control you. I mean, anybody who's had really deep fears or really deep anxieties knows it. It's like a vice grip. It's like a collar. It's got like a hold on you. You can't escape it. So for sometimes you can't even stop thinking about it. It drains your energy because it keeps you in that dysregulated nervous system state, which by the way drains your body's resources. It prevents you from having actual deep and restorative rest and all these things that need to happen physiologically. So it drains you, it exhausts you, and it keeps your mental energy preoccupied on this potential threat, which also in a way manifests proof of that. It keeps you locked in a loop that makes you miserable and blocks you some of the things that you really want to experience. Okay? Not to say that your whole life 100% is that. I say it like this for people. Our unresolved fears, our unresolved past traumas, they're like glasses that we're looking at the world through. It's the lens that we're looking through. We're looking at everything in terms of the story that trauma, that origin story told us. We're looking at everything through the lens of that fear because we're trying to avoid the thing that we think is threatening at all costs. That's what being in fear or scarcity. It's always a story that is ultimately focused on what we don't want happening and trying to prevent it because we think that experience has some sort of power over us, that it has some ability to threaten us, that it has some ability to limit us, right? When it doesn't, because again, we're source, right? But if we haven't learned that, if we don't know that, then of course that feels really alive. It affects our relationships, it affects our health, it affects our quality of life. Literally every single part of our life is affected by our own ability to address our own fears. I think back to even wanting to start my business. I couldn't do certain tasks that I wanted to do in starting this business at the beginning because of anxieties and fears of success, fears of failure, all across the board, fear of being seen, all of these things, fear of being misunderstood, all of it. If I had not leaned into and again started to learn some tools for being able to learn what wisdom those fears had for me about what beliefs were a little bit distorted in my own mind, like I would have never been able to really meaningfully take action and pursue this goal of my business. So anyway, I'm gonna start rambling now. Your fears are your friends. Your fears show you where you are not yet free. It's your birthright to be free. It's your true nature to be free. It's your true nature to be joyful. But we have to address our ability to feel safe, and we have to come into alignment and like connection with our identity as source in order to feel like we can really access all of those things. And doing this sort of fear work, my process specifically, Trigger Alchemy, is what I refer to it as. Like, we have to have something like that to move through the fear, or else we're never going to feel safety, and we're never going to be able to debunk old ideas about who and what we are, to be able to reprogram them with what we know now as adults, as people who've had spiritual awakenings who are super into this, of like how we are actually more source than we ever thought we were. And what's really exciting is that I have opened a new one-on-one coaching program. Soul Powered is its name. And I love it so much. It's got this really beautiful imagery of like the aurora borealis, like the northern light kind of things in the skies. Because I really feel like when we look at the places that feel a little bit dark and scary and painful in ourselves, is actually where we find the most magic. It's where we find the most healing. It's where we find the most power. And I think that imagery of like in the night sky, there being these beautiful colors, it feels like such a magical, transcendent like experience to be able to see that. And I think that that's exactly what like facing our triggers and facing our fears offers us. That is the fastest way to changing your life, is by addressing your fears, addressing your triggers, and addressing past traumas. So I've opened this program for the souls that I really feel like are out there and have been ready and asking for a way to activate that dream life. Like, you know that it's possible. You can feel that it's possible. And maybe have been in the early stages of understanding that your own beliefs, your own state of being is what's creating your reality. And you're trying to figure out how to shift those so that you can live your big dream life. Like, you're literally trying to heal yourself so that your life can change. Like, you understand that the trajectory of your life is directly related to the state of your inner world. And you're like, I want to master this more. I want to master my inner world and change the trajectory of my life. I just need a little support in figuring out how to do that. I need a little support in teaching me some tools and processes. I need somebody to mirror stuff back to me that I haven't quite been able to see. And I'm ready. Like, I want my dream life so badly. And I'm so ready to stop suffering. I'm so ready to stop suffering with unhealthy or inequitable or misaligned relationships. I'm so ready to not be exhausted and feel like I'm misaligned and how I'm applying my energy. I'm so ready to fulfill what feels like a soul powered, soul aligned role in my life and in my community and in the world. Like, I don't want to go another minute without doing that. This program is for you. Like, if you want to do 4 months of intensive one-on-one healing work to have a lifetime of impact, this is why I've opened up this program. Some of the features of this program that I'm really excited about and that I feel like make it really unique is, one, I use my energy activation, my energy healing work, and my channeling work in the session. So over the 4 months of the program, we do 90-minute virtual sessions every other week. And in those sessions, we're doing this like deep dive, getting to the root, shifting, healing things. And we're doing that with the aid of energy work and also with the aid of your guides. It's very common that like I'm asking your guides, like, oh, what do you recommend for this? Where do we move now? What is your thoughts on this? Like, I'm plugged in with your spirit teams who also want you to succeed, also want you to find your highest timeline, who also want to help accelerate your transformation. Like, they're a part of the story and of the healing, which I think is really unique and really special, and is part of what creates the opportunity for such complete change and such powerful transformations. Another thing is that in this program, I get to use my gift of being able to sense like the energetic and belief block that is underneath what kind of appears like surface level frustrations or surface level triggers or fears. Like, I love being able to use this gift of being able to help guide people to what all of this is really about. Like, where did this really come from? You know, you get to learn how to do that with yourself when you're doing it with me, and I give you tools so that you can actually take this all work beyond when you're just in a session with me. But being able to, again, get to the root of what all this stuff is about so that you have the opportunity to change it at all is such a powerful thing. And this coaching work is the place where I get to do that with people. Another thing that's really unique is that I'm offering digital modules in the Soul Powered program. So there's going to be modules that help teach new concepts, that teach you new strategies and give you new tools to use that are going to enhance all of this work that we're doing in the program. And there's also lots of bonus material that I'm giving. I do a little bit of birth chart readings. I do a little bit of tarot card readings. There's exclusive discounts to offerings that you get. I offer you VIP access to previous workshops and things that I've done. There's literally so much support and value that you get from this program. I highly recommend that you go to my website, healingwithbrie.net/soulpowered, or you can just go to the regular website and go to the webpage. I have so many testimonials from my clients talking about how they themselves were not sure if they could see as much change as was talked about in the short period of time that we worked together. And they came out on the other side saying, I'm so shocked by how much progress I made. I did years worth of therapy in just a few short months with Brie. I am a completely different person in just weeks. That is how much change is possible in a short period of time when you have committed. You've committed energetically, you've invested, and you said, I am ready. When you do that and you get a little bit of support, again, the kinds of changes that are possible are crazy. People's relationships completely changed. Relationships that were struggling completely changed by the end of the program. People's career and opportunities, crazy opportunities came through. Huge changes came through during the course of us working together. Health issues have subsided, not to mention, of course, your relationship to your own self and in your own head will change drastically. But I really encourage you to go to the website and see what they had to say about it. I've probably a dozen different testimonials on there if you are curious as to what can come out on the other side of doing this work and you're trying to see if this program would be a fit for you. Because I do believe that you can do this kind of work. You can start to learn how to address your fears and to work through them in many different places. And I really want to empower you to take the action that feels like it is aligned to you. I just was really feeling the pull. There were people that wanted the kind of support that I offer people, that wanted this part somatic, part psychological, part physiological, part spiritual and energetic approach to having really deep and holistic and complete change and healing that, again, will change the trajectory of your life. So if that is the kind of support that you've been asking for, that you've been hoping for, and you want to learn more about the program and how you can get signed up, which is essentially setting up a clarity call with me so that we can make sure everything's aligned and I can answer any questions, then I really encourage you to check out my website, healingwithbrie.net. I would love to work with you. I would love to answer your questions. So go check it out. I hope that it's something that will be supportive to you. I hope that these thoughts about fear and a different way to look at it, a different way to move through it, and what it's offering you in terms of showing you, giving you the road to how to come back into contact with what and who you truly are, which is source energy, which is magical, which is divine. I hope that this helps you feel a little bit less afraid of your own fears. I hope that it helps you look to them as wait, you have something really valuable to offer me. Maybe instead of demonizing you or cursing you or avoiding you, maybe I just have to learn how to have a different kind of relationship with you. And maybe I will be better on the other end of having a different relationship with you. If all of this perspective shift opens up the possibility for that, your life will enhance in so many ways. You will feel more peace. You will feel more freedom. You'll feel more love on the other end of being able to befriend your fears. And with that, I'm going to wrap up today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Let me know if you have any questions or you had any parts of this episode that you really enjoyed. And I will see you next week for more breakthroughs. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode and for tuning in to Breakthroughs with Brie. Please share your favorite episodes with your friends and loved ones, and please subscribe, and rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it, as it helps me continue to create these episodes to help support your breakthroughs. I would love to stay connected with you, so please follow me on social media at Healing with Brie. Please check out my website at healingwithbrie.net, which will always have the most up-to-date information about the services that I'm currently offering. And please consider using the link in the show descriptions to subscribe to my email list so you can be the first to hear about any offerings. You can get all of the free resources that I offer, as well as get my weekly channeled messages. My deepest love and gratitude to you, and I can't wait to have more breakthroughs with you next week.